call this a little blockchain startup story, and it is the evolution of global token economy as we see it. So who remembers the, actually, this seems to have, okay, so who remembers the left side? First web, not many of you, right? Really young audience. Okay, first web was all about permissionless blogging. Everybody get on the internet. You could find information wherever you want. Well, over the course of a period of centralization, we moved into what we would think of as the second web. And we've got lots of centralization happen. Centralization in the form of our new social networks, knowledge networks, commercial networks, apps, and sharing networks. So we're in a phase right now that is very centralized. Where blockchain came in 2008, we said, okay, there's a new, or somebody said, there's a new way of approaching this world. And I'll put that, was that a little too loud? Somebody's pointed at me saying it was a little too loud. Okay, so the vision for blockchain was around peer-to-peer electronic cash that you could send from one person to another without a financial institution. So some people call that disruption, some people call that disintermediation, but it was without a financial institution. So I love Zach's chart up there, by the way. I think of that as the piranha chart, where you've got all these great tech startups going after the financial institutions. There's a blockchain startup of sorts, essentially saying we might not even need those financial institutions in the future, or maybe we will, but they'll look different. Okay, so in 2009, just as the blockchain was coming out, we also had a major financial crisis. So I'm sure you all remember that a few years back. We had great financial engineering, but what happened? There was a very web-like interplay between all the banks, and we had a crisis in liquidity. Now, at the exact same time, we've got this new vision of blockchain coming to the dawn of our web world, and we essentially have a vision where people are saying, you know what, we can be our own bank. We can manage our own financial well-being. These banks, they've been great to us, but they also haven't got it all right. So is there another way? And what we're looking at right now is on the right-hand side, we think of this as a re-decentralization of the web, and that's blockchain enabled. So Web3 is now a node-like network, and those of you, so quick hands, who's got Bitcoin? Hey, lots more than there were a couple of years ago when Bitcoin was just hitting. We are now able to send anything of monetary value throughout a node network, node-like network across the internet without a financial institution getting involved. So pretty groundbreaking stuff. Early days, obviously, early days of what we would think of as Web3, but we're seeing many projects right across all industries that will allow us to have literally anything of value, not just money, but shares of companies and shares of real assets transferred peer-to-peer across the internet in a very secure and immutable way. Lots of other blockchain stuff going on there. So when I went down the rabbit hole in 2014, Ethereum was just starting up. So Ethereum being a blockchain that is programmable. So not only are we now moving money around, but we're actually able to program the blockchain and program it in a way that you could put some code onto a blockchain and it'll run in this worldwide computer and it can make decisions on your behalf. So now we're talking about this decentralized computing power that you can program. And by the way, let's not forget that it was a Canadian startup, happens to be in Switzerland now, but we're now seeing the fruits of the Ethereum blockchain in new digital identities and other things. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So take a look at this little diagram. So on the left, you've got your traditional fiat currencies, and folks today are converting those into cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course, they're using great services like CoinSquare, who we heard about earlier, to take that fiat and put it into the crypto world. And once you have crypto, you can you can invest that cryptocurrency into something else. And that's where we get this programmable blockchain taking effect. So remember, I talked about these programs you can put into the blockchain. These programs can essentially act like share registries. They can act like mini banks, but they can also be all kinds of different applications. And people have been taking their cryptocurrencies, converting them into tokens and other coins of projects around the world. This is what happened in 2017. So every one of those bubbles there essentially is a project that took some cryptocurrency and used it for their benefit, for their project development. Now you see there's one called Tasos up there in the top right-hand corner in blue. They raised $230 million. They said you were a contributor to their fundraiser. So you took your Bitcoin or your Ether and you sent it over to the Tasos smart contract on the blockchain. It, without any human intervention, converted your cryptocurrency in a token of their project, and you are now a token holder and a token holder of this new future protocol. But as it turned out, you have no rights in that particular one. This is an example of something that is unregulated today. So we're moving into this really interesting space where you can now, every one of you could spark up a project and allow all of your friends, without a bank getting involved or without other financial intermediary getting involved, they can all send crypto to your particular project, and it's that liquid, that easy to do. And this is what's been going on. Tasos is an example of a project that raised a lot, but it's also unregulated. So what does that mean? You had no rights. You had really kind of no recourse if something didn't go well with that particular project. So we started working with the Securities Commission here in Canada, in Ontario specifically, and the Launchpad to take this model where countries or companies around the world in other countries that were essentially unregulated, such as Switzerland, Gibraltar, Barbados, over the course of the last couple of years, we knew that the regulation was coming. We also wanted to do things the right way on behalf of investors. So we started working with the Launchpad as soon as it opened, and we were the first company in. And we have a vision of all kinds of businesses, not just startup businesses, who, by the way, if you're a startup business and you want to start talking about funding your business, we want to talk to you at TokenFunder. We imagine that we're going to see lots of applications. We're going to see tokens for every single business. We call this the tokenization of our global economy. And we were obviously working with the regulators. We were the first initial token offering, the first regulated token offering, and we still are open for investment today until April 30th, but we're the very first in Ontario. And that's because we also have a know your customer component to our platform. So if you're a retail investor, you can send your Canadian currency or your cryptocurrency such as Ether into our platform, and you will become a token holder. You'll get future rights. You'll get future profits through the blockchain, delivered through the blockchain of our platform. So we're different in that it's not a protocol. We're actually a real business, a real startup, and we've taken this approach. So we are a security token, for those of you that understand the difference between security tokens and utility tokens. We kind of envision this really cool investment experience where on the right-hand side, you see you've got tokens of these other businesses, and you've got your Bitcoin and your Ether. You've kind of got this integrated investment wallet with cryptocurrencies and your portfolios. So that's a vision we have of the future. And a few lessons that I take away today, and this is never a dull day in the startup world, are we definitely see the transformative element to this. We know that Web3 is coming. We know that decentralization is coming. Lots of power structures in finance and government today may or may not like where this technology is headed, so we have those discussions every day. A lot of new freedoms. Each and every one of you can now essentially have your own cryptocurrency in a wallet that is not managed by any financial institution. You can be your own bank. You can manage your own future kind of financial wherewithal. But there's new responsibilities involved there, so you have to get into understanding your private keys and all those good things. Finally, a couple of things. Timing is everything. Timing really is everything. We've seen lots of kind of unregulated ICOs, billions of dollars put in there. We think we're in it for the long game, and doing the right thing for the investors is our long game. And finally, our value set in doing what we're doing is in helping businesses take advantage of this new tokenization technology. So, we're here for the long term, and we certainly want to help startups get the funding on a global level and bring global capital to Canadian startups and abroad. That's kind of where we started this, and we believe that doing the right thing for investors, doing the right thing with startups is the right way to go. And I take this Simon Sinek quote, along with me everywhere we go. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. And I think that's a takeaway that I've always had. Thank you very much. I think my time is up, and I'm going to be on my way. No, I'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you. Questions?
Hi, I have a question on the regulatory side. I saw that, and I was positively impressed that you have the KYC process in place. So do you actually have like a full AML process to ensure proper onboarding? Like we heard all those stories about the lack of regulatory piece on the, like on the, not on like on the all these types of new space, but you seem to be a different player. So are you fully regulatorized? And if you are you playing a role in the industry? What's your view?
Well, the approach we took was working with our regulators from day one, and we noticed that when you take your company across to overseas, raise there, you can essentially take Ether from anybody. Don't care who they are, you know nothing about them. They're anonymous, and the difference there is that you actually don't have a clue where that money's coming from, and obviously you don't know if the investment is very suitable for them. So you turn the responsibility over to them. When we started working with our regulators here, doing it in our way here, we realized very quickly we needed to do the KYC. We needed to understand whether you were going to spend, you were going to invest in a startup. You weren't going to mortgage your entire house. We actually know, and you declare my risk tolerance, etc., just like you would on an online investment. So yes, we do have back-end identity verification and suitability for the investment, and we believe that's the right thing to do for the investors in the long term. Yeah, over here.
I say great presentation, really enjoyed it. In terms of the funding for startups, more the traditional model, what would sort of be the process in terms of a high level for someone going about that?
High level process of going through
for yourselves for funding.
Well, we're doing it right now, so we're an example of that. We have a token offering that is available, and we have an offering memorandum. We've got the information out there as to what the vision and the plan is and the roadmap, which is a lot of disclosure for investors, and then you decide if that's the right kind of investment for you. Yeah, thank you. Good question.
Hello. Just wondering, are the securities subject to Canadian securities law, and do token holders have the same rights that shareholders would in terms of, can they like vote the board off if they're useless, that sort of stuff?
And this is fully disclosed in our offering memorandum. They don't, in our case, they're not going to be able to vote the board off, quote unquote, but actually there's voting rights that we're going to have for the future development of the platform, for the priorities of the companies on the platform and that sort of thing. So we are going to take advantage of blockchain voting, and you'll have a blockchain address, so you can participate that way.
Well, thank you for the talk. It was really interesting.
Thank you.
Concept. I really was interested in the crowdfunding aspects of tokens that you sort of presented in one of your slides. If you can maybe just elaborate a little bit on how that can be used, and specifically again with the regulations, you know, it's an exempt market license that you require. Is that something that you already are registered with OSC, or is that something that you plan on doing in the future?
Yeah, that's in our immediate roadmap. Is all the registration and the requirements from a regulatory crowdfunding platform. That's exactly what our roadmap's all about. So we've got the raise. As you can imagine, legal actually costs quite a bit to get done here. So when you leave the country, you can avoid some of the legals, but ultimately you'll end up with the worse trouble. We believe, staying in Canada, helping companies in Canada do the right thing makes the most sense for us. Was that right? Helpful? Okay. Yeah. One more.
Nice talk, by the way. Do you specialize in tokens for startups or also for ongoing projects?
We think that we're getting a lot of requests to talk to startups, and startups are a perfect starting ground for us. So as a beachhead, as a target market, startups certainly make a lot of sense, as long as they're willing to do it the right way, as long as they're willing to do it with a security token, because there's a very good chance that most of these tokens are actually security tokens. Yeah. There's okay, one more question. I'll put another plug in. If you're a startup, we've got a sign up page on our site, or if you're even an advisor that wants to help startups, we're building out that ecosystem for both. And one more question right there. Hi.
When do you investments from ITOs versus venture capitalism? What are the pros and cons between the two, and which ones should a startup go for in each situation?
Yeah, they're going to both be relevant. In our case, we like the fact that we're building on a big community of investors, and we'll tap a community crowd mindset to help us build a platform and to help move it forward. There are platforms, or there are businesses that would benefit from just a couple of really strong angels to help them. So that's possible. We believe that we're going to move towards what if you had hundreds of thousands of investors that essentially become customers that care about the future of your platform. So you're onboarding an entire community in terms of the way that we're approaching this, and we see that as a definite benefit.